Hello, mindful parents. This is Christine Pedersen here this week to talk about boundaries. Boundaries are really important for you as a parent, but they're also really important for your children. One of the things that we work on in the Mindful Parenting Revolution is how we can model healthy, kind boundaries because we want our kids to grow up using kind boundaries to keep themselves safe and healthy. It's our physical, mental, and emotional boundaries that help us stay mentally healthy and physically healthy. If we are allowing ourselves to be overcome by other people's expectations or obligations, it leads to dis-ease. Anxiety, stress, physical exhaustion, sleeplessness, and insomnia, these are all things that I have dealt with in my life directly because of a lack of boundaries. And here's the thing. It's not that I didn't know that I needed boundaries, right? I mean, this is like a really big buzzword these days, especially, but even when I was younger, I knew I was a people pleaser and a perfectionist, and I probably needed to have better boundaries. And yet, I did not know what a boundary was, how to even know what boundaries I needed, much less how to implement them with the people around me. So, one of my biggest challenges this fall is to really help parents step into their boundary power. And I'm excited to do this. I've recently had a boundary overhaul, and I feel like I'm getting really good at practicing using my boundaries. This is a lifelong skill that you will always be building. How to say no to certain things, people, and activities so that you can say yes to yourself and honor your needs. It is really, really important. The data shows us that children who grow up with healthy boundaries feel safe saying no when they're in scary situations. They are more likely to resist the temptation to risk take drugs, alcohol, other risky teen behaviors. They are less likely to harm themselves, and they have better mental health, including physical health, right? These are also the kids who choose to listen to their body and treat themselves with kindness and respect because they have learned to watch you treat yourself, your body, your mind, your needs with kindness and respect. Which is really interesting, right? If I look back to my early parenting days, my middle school, my adolescence, my high school, my college experience, and my early professional experience, I did everything but treat myself with kindness and respect. I sold myself out. I kept myself quiet when I should have said no. I said yes when I should have said, I can't take that on. I should have said no at times. And I probably should have said yes to things as well. I should have said yes to meaningful, deep self-care. I should have said yes to listening to my body's anxiety and stress response. And I should have acted on those. Boundaries are your needs in action, right? So it's where you are able to listen to your body, the reoccurring thoughts in your mind saying, no, 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 no. Why did you say yes? And you act on those things. You either use your words or you use your actions to take time, space, and honor what you need. And you know what? Most boundaries are time, space related. Time is a huge boundary. Your body moving through space is another way that you can control your boundary, right? Is the space around you calm and grounded? Or is it frenzied and full of angst and judgment? I guess that's kind of an energy. I really love several resources that I want to share with you. One is a really great place to get ideas for boundaries in action. It's Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. And Glennon really struggled with boundaries and has a really kind and gentle way of stating her boundaries for family, friends, in her career, etc. And I really enjoyed, of course, she's a beautifully lyrical and imaginative author, so she has beautiful stories and imagery to go along with these boundaries. That was an inspiration for me when I was starting on my boundary journey, and I thought, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. This is what it might look like to set a boundary. Terry Cole is an author and psychologist who helps to explain why we may be struggling to make boundaries, what boundaries are, and how we can implement them. In fact, the back of her book is filled with actual scripts that you can use. So I love this resource if you want to dive a little bit deeper. There are other resources out there. This is also something that you can talk about with your partner or your therapist. I found that it was really helpful to have a book to go back to over and over again with a lot of different anecdotal stories. So both of these books share boundaries from lots of different directions. And that's the interesting thing about boundaries, right? We can talk about listening to our physical needs, our emotional needs, our mental needs, and then putting boundaries into action. How do we actually step in and start saying, yes, I need to do this for myself, my own wellness. No, this is not working for me right now, maybe later. When we utilize healthy boundaries ourselves, we are teaching boundaries to our children. Every once in a while, I do explicitly point out, I had to say no to this thing because I want to have the time and the energy to do this later. Just this weekend, I said, we have 4 things already on our calendar. I'm going to have to say no to the trampoline park so that we all have the energy to do the other things we've said yes to doing. So every once in a while, I really explicitly explain what a boundary is. I also think it's important to recognize what a boundary is not. A boundary is not a rule. It's not something that you want other people to do, and if they don't do it, then they're punished, right? So a boundary is what we will do. It's not a rule. It's not trying to control others through coercion or punishment and reward. Now, if you're like me, you grew up with a lot of rules. A lot of people telling you this is the way it is. If you don't do that, there's the punishment or the consequence. So you learn to toe the line regardless of what your body and your mind was saying. Well, this is not what I want to teach my kids. I want to teach my kids to listen to their body and make their own healthy boundary, their own container to keep themselves safe. I don't want them to absolutely follow rules that other people have told them they should do without checking in with themselves. So as parents in the Mindful Parenting Program, we're working really hard to learn how we can implement boundaries with connection and love and kindness and not put a bunch of rules on our kids, because rules will be pushed against. Rules will be tested. And you will have to be a police person and constantly punishing and consequencing the testing of those boundaries. And that is just not fun for me. So one of my parenting boundaries is wipe out the rules. Burn the rule book, because I don't want to be the monitor of whether my rules are being followed or not. And then I don't want to be the punisher who's having to come in and implement timeouts or take away toys or take away activities. I want to say what I will do in certain circumstances because of my healthy boundaries. And I will say what I expect my kids to do in certain circumstances. And this is how they can keep themselves safe and healthy. And if they choose not to do that, well, then that's a conversation about why. Why would you choose not to keep yourself safe and healthy? And how can I help you keep yourself safe and healthy. Okay, so we have like broken off the tip of the iceberg here with boundaries. Please stay tuned this week for more information, tips, and ideas about boundaries in your house. I would love to know in the comments below, what are the biggest boundaries you struggle with? Where do you wish in your own life that you had stronger boundaries? Oftentimes the question is, with whom? And there is usually someone that you really, really struggle to set boundaries with because of some personal challenge, some triggering dynamic going on. So who do you struggle to create boundaries with? What are the biggest boundaries that you feel are hard to create? And you might even share, I'd love to get some ideas of what boundaries you actually find you're really good at. Where have you successfully created boundaries, and why was that so easy? It'll be interesting to see what we notice when we look at these patterns in ourselves and in others. Oh, I love you. I love boundaries, and I love sharing this in a way that hopefully makes parenting easier too, right? When we let go of the rules, it opens up so much more space for fun and ease. And that is really the basis of the Mindful Parenting Revolution. Thank you all for being here.